raised in Connecticut, grew up in a very rural farmland sort of environment, and then ventured out to China and spent some time in Singapore, and now I'm here in Dubai. And I definitely see that, looking back on where I was raised, that there are huge populations of people that are very much being left out of this conversation. And I wanted to talk a little bit about representation in Web3 and how we are bringing, those people to the table. And it sounds like, what you guys are building is, different channels to do that, whether it's through gaming or through metaverse. And how does that connect with your own story? So, see, I threw one in on you there. Yeah.
I like it. I like
you didn't see that coming.
So, no, I didn't. It was a curveball, but we like curveballs. I think, like for me personally, growing up in school, there were like 4 or 5 main groups. You're either with the cool kids or the kids who like playing football. Not American football, but soccer football.
Okay.
The distinction there. Or it was like the geeky nerds who just liked to sit down and do clever stuff. Yeah. Or the kids who wouldn't fit into any other group. And I sort of would wrote all the kids who I'm 35, so Pokemon was big, Harry Potter was big when I was growing up. And it's like, right, let's sit and play on our Game Boys. And I sort of had an affiliation with the majority of these groups. I was really good at football, so I'd fit in with the cool kids at periods of time. But I love nerding out, being a bit geeky, so I'd spend time with that. But it became difficult to associate to a single tribe, where it was more like, I'm in this tribe for a bit, I'm in that tribe for a bit. And there's a lot of, especially I feel, and we can even argue now, but back then, it's you had to fit somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas today, and especially in Web3, there aren't judgments made on what you look like, on your gender, these aspects. It's more so on what's the value that you're bringing. So it's really given a level playing field. I was actually, the conversation I was having earlier prior to coming here today was with someone, and I think there was a few of us where each person is very senior or runs a big company within the space. And we're all sitting down, t-shirts, shorts, jeans, having a chat, that anyone walking by, you wouldn't think that this is an insane table of people having a chat. And that could be from net worth, it could be from the intelligence there, it could be from the influence that's there, just depending on what rose-tinted glasses you have on that you're passing that judgment from. We just look like 5, 6 everyday guys sitting down having a chat. So I feel that the representation is more equal. It's not equal enough yet. The equality isn't there yet, because I still feel there are minorities that are underrepresented.
Right.
But I feel, given where we're going, and I touched on maybe the governance aspect where everyone has a voice.
Right.
We're not there yet, but we are getting there, and it's at that point where, and what I'm going to say is going to become a paradox, but essentially it's a democratized monopoly where everyone has skin in the game, but it's a monopoly that everyone has control over. So maybe the corporates, it might blow their minds a bit. It's like, wait, how can you have both? But that's fundamentally what we can have. And at that point, because everyone has a voice, doesn't make a difference what gender you are, doesn't make a difference what the color of your skin is, what religion you abide by, if any, where you come from. It's, I have my voice based on the value that I bring. And there are no preconditions that determine what my path looks like through life. So sort of mixing a bit of my experience growing up and also what I'm seeing in the space.
Absolutely. And that totally resonates with me, because I also didn't fit in growing up. I mean, I probably fit into the 4th group, the people that don't fit in. That was me growing up. And so I do see that in Web3. I see the intention to be inclusive, and I see that, but I also see, like when I do look at panels, I see they are mostly men. That still exists because, it's tech, of course, and a bit of finance. Go ahead.
No, absolutely not. So I think that there is a big challenge there. I know when I first got into the space, and this is as a man, when I'd go to meetups and I didn't know anyone there, I had hesitations about, do I go speak to people? Mm-hmm. Most of these people are in suits. And I had a fear, so I could only imagine what it would be like for a woman coming in to a room full of men and then feeling like, what am I doing here?
Right.
But I also know that there's been some initiatives, like we have a group in London called London Women Leading Web3, for example, and it started out by, it was a WhatsApp group of women thinking, okay, well, as opposed to me going alone, I've met you, let's all connect, I'm going to this event. And they show up in numbers, safety in numbers. And it started off like that, and now it's a group, I think, 50 plus members as of now.
Wow.
And this isn't a show, but it's just given we're on this topic. And they're all C-level, or not in general, but it's more a case of a safe place for them to come together and also be able to go to different events. But then it gives them a voice and a platform. So when there is an event happening, we can have someone on this panel, we can have someone on that panel. I do believe there's an innate fear, and it's not just in women, it's just in minorities in general.
Yeah.
To go into something new, just because of the way we've been preconditioned. But once you're in the space, as long as that initial experience is a positive experience, in general, it is a positive experience. Again, outside of the bad actors that we spoke about right at the beginning, because everyone is looking to add value. In general, everyone is looking to how can we help each other versus what can I extract from you to help me on my journey. And there are actors like that in the space, but there's a lot less versus in the conventional sense.
Yeah, and Dubai, I think we need something like that, Dubai. Women in Web3. You may hear some updates from me on that, but for sure, I mean, yeah, we definitely have it, particularly out here and in this region. It's very, male dominated in terms of the space, but there are a number of women leaders in Web3 out here as well that are making waves.
Absolutely, and I think it's, especially I heard the stat yesterday that every 14-year-old has only known a world of Bitcoin in it, which is super interesting, because by the time these guys are 17 or these guys and girls are 17, and they have a bit more autonomy over their finances, which they probably do already, we'll start seeing more of a transition. So a slight tangent to the point we were saying, but I just feel that it's happening. And again, start again, apologies. So with the reference to having leaders in the space, the more thought leaders that are out there that are women or are from minority groups, the more it will inspire confidence in the younger generation growing up, where I'm not just looking at a bunch of white middle-aged men who have no association and no understanding of my kind of life, where I can look into other leaders in the space and be like, I can associate with this person, I can associate with that person. Yeah. And we're getting closer to that. Again, we're not there, but I feel with any new technology, it does take 10, time. 20 years for some form of understanding or adoption to hit. Normally you need standards. So I think there was 27 years between the internet being created and I think it's a TCP protocol coming in. So again, it takes time for that to happen. We just live in a day and age where we want instant gratification. It's like if I'm waiting 2 minutes for my food to heat up in the microwave, it's too long. So what do you mean I have to wait a decade for something to happen? But we fast forward the first Bitcoin block was mined January 2009 or in December 2023. So we've come a long way since then. And we look at all of the big brands looking into the space, like Nike have their own collection, Adidas have their own collection. I think one of the bigger is it Trivago? It might be, I'm not sure, or Travala. One of them have their NFT, Trekkie NFT that's come out as well. All of the big banks who were saying crypto was a scam in 2017, 2018, all now have trading desks.
Now they're jumping in, right?
Absolutely. All the central banks or the more prominent central banks looking at CBDCs, which again don't fit in with the ethos of crypto, but at least it's leveraging the technology. So we're actually seeing something that was written off 5 or 6 years ago. Everyone is realizing actually this isn't going away. And how can we take advantage of this? But it's changing that mindset of how can we take advantage of this to how can we provide value to our users. So they're no longer seen as users, but they're seen as members of the community. Right. And I think that there is a mindset shift that needs to happen for adoption to truly take place if it's going to be top down from the institutions and the brands.
Absolutely. And even though people talk about education, it's how you educate. Yep. it's not in a lecture format like you or I may have experienced where you're sitting and you're taking notes. It's more of engagement. It's bringing people in. It's how you onboard. Can you talk a little bit about ed tech and some of the things that Animoca Brands is involved in terms of educating other groups?
I think I'm not going to be as monotone now, but, yeah, but all jokes aside, so education is something, me having been an educator for a decade prior to pivoting full-time into this role, it's one of the oldest institutions alongside finance, so it's one of the hardest institutions to shake up. And as soon as I hit senior management, you can see the red tape bureaucracy. It was very, very clear to see, and the impact to make real change didn't exist. So coming into Web3, yeah, again, the founder, he's a true advocate and believer in education. So we knew there was always a plan around education. About a year and a half ago, we acquired an edtech platform called TinyTap. Just a quick 30 seconds. TinyTap, the core business model behind it is teachers create content, they create lessons, they have a no-code tooling, and that lesson is gamified. And then parents or schools pay a subscription fee. The kids go on, they play games where they're fundamentally learning, and then the profit that's generated, there's a revenue share between the platform and between the content creators. That's the business model, that's Web2. It fits in with the ethos of Web3 and was one of the core driving forces behind the acquisition. So now that we have this platform, what can we do from a tokenization aspect? So we looked at the idea of the revenue being generated, because as of now, the majority of cryptocurrencies have a speculative nature. How can we have something that rewards teachers, but also rewards people coming in from an investment standpoint, and also that adds value to the platform? Again, this virtual cycle, this win-win, right, that we keep referring to. So we leveraged NFTs. Now, for those not familiar with NFTs, without going into the jargon, it's a digital container. And what we've seen people put inside are JPEGs as of now. But you can, essentially anything that can be coded, you can put that inside an NFT. So I want us to broaden our horizons on how we think, or what we think of an NFT as. So we took the revenue being generated, 80% of that, and we wrapped it into an NFT, and we called that a publisher NFT. And what it allowed is for investors coming in to now act as co-publishers for this content. And again, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We took something that exists in music, and we just made it work for education. We sold 12 NFTs. We raised just under $400,000. 50% of that went to the teachers. We had an elementary school teacher walk away with, I think, just over $37,000. That's more than her annual salary. So when we talk about making a difference, we made a difference. And again, that was an experiment. It was a hypothesis, and it was a huge success. So we thought, excellent. We now have an idea of what we can do. This was this time last year when we dropped those publisher NFTs. So we decided, let's build an education protocol and just go straight in. But with anything, it takes time to build. So we launched a token. We had very great success around the fungible token, and the core of the fungible token is actually a governance token to begin with. But what launching the token allowed us to do from the liquidity that was generated was create two $10 million funds. One fund is the Global Educator Fund, and it's really aimed at giving out grants to teachers to come and create educational content. So it's saying, we will pay you, we will reward you for the content that you are generating as an onboardment mechanism. But what excites me even more is with the other $10 million fund, we created an accelerator. And the core focus of the accelerator is onboarding 100 edtech companies into the space. We know TinyTap was the start, but for us to build an ecosystem, you cannot have an ecosystem with just one business. Right. So the purpose of this is to bring in the right founders, the right mindset, it could be revenue generating, it could be pre-seed, doesn't make a difference what stage they're at, and we will take them through the accelerator, teach them about Web3, the different kinds of integrations, and at the end of it, they'll get some form of financing, from a grant all the way up to debt equity financing. So really bringing the best of Web2 and Web3. And we were 2 cohorts in, and it's 10 cohorts in total across 18 months. We're 2 cohorts in, and it's been an amazing success so far. And we're just seeing the connectivity between the founders, extra ideas being generated, and it really then comes into how can we've given that initial value add, and now they're beginning to add the value. And again, it takes time. And in time, we'll see what will happen within this ecosystem. But it's an ecosystem that started off with an idea that was a success. Fast forward a year from that initial idea, we have a token trading maybe with a market cap of 500 to 600 million as of now. I think at peak was 1.6 billion, which is insane. Probably doesn't mean anything to the majority of the audience, but to us, they're really good metrics of success. And now it's just sustainable growth moving forward and engaging with the right stakeholders. If it's the edtech businesses, if it's the teachers, if it's the students, and really building that ecosystem. I refer to them as ecosystems. It's underpinned by an economy naturally, but it's an economy that hasn't scaled or is scaling as of now, as we start to understand from the data points how people are interacting. How can we reward? And we talk about incentives in the space a lot. Incentives is a good way to bring people in, but fundamentally there needs to be a motivation. In the same way you went back to play that game over and over again because you were motivated to do so.